What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast. How you doing? I am one half of your host, Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, Crypto Ewok. We've got a big show for you tonight. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. This should be a really good one. We have a lot of stuff to go over. A somewhat unexpected Richard Hart live stream. Or video posted anyway, to go over tonight that we were not really expecting just a few days ago. So that's going to be the meat of the show tonight and really trying to dissect everything he talked about. If you are just listening to the podcast on the back end, we're going to talk about, could we see this ecosystem? Could we see PulseChain do something like a 20x by the time the Bitcoin halvening is here, by around May or something like that, which would kind of keep it, if it was going to do the crazy gains that Hex did just a few years ago, that could keep it somewhat on par with that by the Bitcoin halvening. So we'll look into that as well. If you guys are just getting in here, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate you being here tonight. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have all that to get into it, a lot more. We're going to break down actually the leagues from gopulse.com/leagues in terms of your PulseChain holdings, your PulseX holdings, your Hex holdings. What are you? Are you a crab, a turtle, a squid? What cute name do you possess in your PulseChain bags? You can vote on that in the poll here tonight, and we'll get into those results a little bit later. But we have a really good conversation to get into about that and how to kind of assess those leagues. But anyway, first off, Ewok, how you doing this evening? How was it Christmas? And Richard Hart's stream to react to tonight. So how you feeling?
Feeling good. It was a good Christmas. Did a little traveling today, not too far away, but got to spend some time with more family today. And yeah, it was good. It was amazing to hear Richard, come off with like an hour and a half almost video. And that was a nice surprise. I thought we would get a hello, Merry Christmas, thanks for doing everything. And here there was a lot more substance to it. And, it just brought back memories of how educating he really is. He knows his stuff, and it's definitely missed by the community, at least by myself. I speak for myself, but that type of educational stuff is well needed, and it was awesome. So.
Well, in case you've been sleeping under a rock, I think everybody probably did enjoy it. Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things this community has been clamoring for over the last year to 2 years now has been getting live streams from him, even maybe more so than what you or I wanted to walk. So lots of people definitely happy about this. We're going to get into it and a whole lot more tonight. Let's get some business keeping out of the way here first. So just taking a look real quick at where we've been in the crypto market. Bitcoin, Ethereum kind of just doing what they've been doing here over the holidays. We got BTC at 42K, ETH at about 2,200 right now. And, everything else just kind of moving along. When you look at the PulseChain ecosystem right now, we've had a nice little bit of a rally over the last few days, and we're still kind of hanging out in this channel between, I'd say about 44% below the SAC rate up to that 30% below, which we haven't gotten quite back to here yet. But we've been hanging out right here at 4 zeros and a 6 and pumping over the last few days. So that has been nice. PulseX still down 83% below SAC rate, but of course it has come up from recent lows as well. The combined hexes at 1.5 cents, which they've pretty much just been right at here for a little while. But yeah, we had yesterday on Christmas, there was a nice little pump, and then we had a bit of a pullback today, and then things kind of coming back up again. So we're hanging out right here. But I mean, as far as the chart structure there, Ewok, if you were able to get to the PulseChain chart, when you get a second there, I think things are looking pretty healthy. I mean, we've seen these little modest pullbacks, but I mean, we continue to put in higher lows. I think many of us are relative. You can never be sure in these markets, let's say that. But I mean, a lot of us are pretty sure that we are, the low is in, obviously, that we saw a couple of months back. But yeah, things are starting to look pretty good. Who knows how much of the Richard Hart stream could be a catalyst for anything? I mean, that remains to be seen. But I think the chart looks pretty healthy. But what do you think here?
Yeah, for sure. So we made this, double bottom August, and then again in September, double bottom, and then it made a higher low here in October. And then here another double bottom almost. It retested a level of that point. I don't know, 4 zeros and a 4-6. Tested that again and it went on. So, it's structurally looking very healthy, as long as we continue to make higher lows and get some nice run-ups like we've had here the past, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 12 out of the last 13 candles have been green. And then, you get a couple little pullbacks here. The last 2 were red. We haven't seen this one finish yet, but a red one in there a little bit is healthy for sure. Still need to I think we still need to wash out some of the people that don't believe as much. But we're getting there. There's definitely not as heavy selling going on as there was. You saw some of these major candles coming down, and those were people unloading, billions at a time. So
Right.
we're just not seeing that. And I think a lot of people have either believed the people now either believe or they're out of ammunition. So I think we're at a critical time here as the new year comes into play. Things are looking really good, and they're all looking very similar. They move very closely together. So we could look at PulseX's chart and see something very similar because of the
Yeah.
bonding. So yeah, very healthy for all of these, I think.
And I think, to give anybody that is thinking about DCAing right here, even a little bit more solace, as Alan just said in the chat, if you wanted to pull up the Pulse weekly chart or Pulse X, probably preferably Pulse. But I mean, if you just look at it weekly, things look even better, obviously. It's a chance for you, not that we're like headed straight down or anything like we were a couple of months ago. But yeah, I mean, like you can already see right there, looking at this on a weekly time frame,
Yep.
it looks even more bullish and will kind of, again, comforts you. I mean, I think that people probably shouldn't really worry about the daily charts too much. I mean, it's nice to see them, to maybe see here and there on a short-term level DCAing. But I mean, if you're just trying to ape into this ecosystem right now, I think looking at this weekly is definitely the way to go.
When in doubt, zoom out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's looking good for sure. And so the prices are looking good. As far as other things going on right now. So that's the PulseChain ecosystem. We're going to look at a couple pieces of news before we really dig in to this stream the other night. So I want to bring up something that just came out today. I didn't even run it by you yet, Ewok, but I'm sure you may have seen it. But apparently Mt. Gox coins are starting to be distributed here. I don't know where the verifiable source is, but it seems like multiple people have reported getting payouts. And I find it interesting, of course, that this starts now when Bitcoin is up over 40K and has been here for a couple of weeks and not back in. I mean, let's face it, the timeline for this has been pushed back time after time after time. But the last one that was known anyway was in October of this year. That didn't happen. But here, conveniently, we are with BTC up into the 40Ks with the payouts kind of happening now. So what do you make of that? I mean, I imagine pretty clear manipulation. I mean, this whole thing has been foobarred basically from the very beginning. There's really been nothing good about the payout of these Mt. Gox coins. But what do you make of the timing of this, and what do you think the fallout could be? How do you think the continuation of those payouts could occur?
Yeah, it's I mean, the people that have held on this long haven't really had a choice. Some of them want profits. Some of them, a lot of them are probably going to take profit. I don't know how many of those people, well, they were in Bitcoin early, right? So I would imagine they're following a cycle. I just think that there are going to be people that are so anxious that are going to take a little off the top. And I think, the candle yesterday definitely showed that, and we could continue to see a little bit more downside. You mentioned Mt. Gox, but FTX is also getting ready to release some funds, and that's a lot of Solana. I think they had 75, possibly 75% of the supply that was out there in Solana. Now I don't know how much they recovered, But that's a lot of tokens, and if you haven't taken some profits on the Solana side, maybe something to think about if these FTX coins get released like that, because I think they're gonna sell and give dollar amounts. I don't think they're giving tokens back. I think they're giving US dollar amounts. So
Right.
FTX is going to have to dump a lot of those on a lot of the markets to make up the cash to be able to give back to people a dollar amount. You're not getting coins back. You're getting US dollars. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of stuff about to hit the market. But what do I make of it? Well, I mean, it's kind of shitty timing. They would, for a lot of people, they waited till the price went up, and rather than release them when they were lower, we wish they would have done it then, so it didn't affect the markets quite as much. But you can't tell with these people, and I don't know if they know that or not. They're getting a higher value, obviously, and
Right.
the people are still getting a set amount. So it sucks. It sucks for the people that are getting redeemed, because again, if they had 5 Bitcoin and it went up, I think they're only getting a certain dollar amount no matter where the value of the Bitcoin is. So just it sucks for everybody. Sucks for the markets. It sucks for the people that are not making any kind of profit, although they've been held for 10 years. I think
Right.
they've done rather well. But yeah, I mean, it's going to hurt the market for a little bit, but just but I think they'll recover fairly soon.
And that's what I was going to say when you were talking about the timing being shitty. I mean, yeah, I mean, the fact that they haven't had their coins for a decade basically is the real shitty thing about it. So, yeah. And as Alan said in the chat, I mean, he would sell half of his Mount Gox stack immediately. I mean, yeah, I mean, imagine how much in profit these people are. I mean, to be able to
Yeah.
finally get that money. I mean, if they don't have a mind for crypto anymore, they just don't care about it, which, who knows how your attitudes change in a year or 10 years. But I mean, I can see a lot of people definitely just getting out from under it immediately.
Well, I think the average price was about $600, right? I think
Yeah. Yeah.
roughly per Bitcoin at that point. You're up quite a bit since then. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And kudos to you for your talk about Solana here. And I mean, that's the big thing with Solana. And man, anybody in this community that has seen it, I mean, I think anybody with half a brain anyway that knows, just the kind of rule of, selling when things are at their highs and buying when they're at their lows. Everything with Solana has just been blowing off for a month or two now, and it's basically everything on Twitter is all about Solana and people not selling, and it's gonna flip Ethereum this cycle now, and like just things that it's like so clearly time for this little run it's on to correct itself. We're seeing calls from people on Twitter that, without naming names, somebody you and I know well, that I was surprised when I DM'd you that like their call for Solana this cycle, which I don't know, maybe it was just that person's like genuine idea of where they think it could go, but to me it made no sense. I mean, it was over $2,000, which I just can't see happening. But that coupled, of course, with Bonk, the meme coin, blew off over the last few weeks. Everyone aping into it and losing money. Obviously, I think Bonk went down. What was it? I think it was just over the weekend. Or maybe it was just Sol. Everything basically took a 50% haircut, I think, on Saturday morning in the whole ecosystem. So, I mean, it was a matter of time. Like you could see this coming. Bonk got a Coinbase listing. Okay. Clearly a top signal. But yeah, just too much attention around this ecosystem. And like you said, Ewok, this is the big thing. And this is what's going to continue to happen with Solana that I think people aren't realizing or acknowledging throughout this bull market, is that you're going to have these scheduled token unlocks that are massive, and also people getting paid back and things like that. But you're going to have these unlocks from VC funds, something we don't have here in real DeFi PulseChain. But we have that with a lot of these other chains. When you look at Arbitrum, Optimism, Solana, a lot of these big ones, you have these token unlocks coming. They're scheduled for specific times purposefully. So what do you make of just some of this unconscious behavior around Solana by people right now that are just, and noobs are going to noob. I understand that. But I mean, like, we're even seeing credible people like giving out these, crazy price targets. And I understand. I mean, they're saying it in the midst of euphoria, but I don't see this thing flipping ETH, and I don't think it performs in this bull market anywhere near like people are acting. So what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, here's the chart for Solana, and I mean, it's still really hasn't done a whole lot. I mean, I know it pumped. This is the daily chart. Um, the top was $260,
Yeah.
uh, and you know, I mean, I'll say it. It was, Miguel's calling for over $2,000, which,
Okay.
I think you and I both agree that that's just way out of line, especially with what we think's going to happen with the FTX tokens.
Right.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's been going sideways since May of 2022, and just from between 47 and 26 hasn't done a whole lot, right? Now, some of the other meme coins, yes, it's all the euphoria, it's all the buying green candles, people promoting it. But don't forget, Solana is also the chain that has shut off like 3 times. They just stop it.
Oh, I think it was more than 3. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
3 that are documented and timestamped,
Yeah.
and we know it shut down at least 3 times with the on-off switch. I mean, there's a meme of the Solana with the on-off with
Right.
it's dangerous. It's one of those plays where just be extremely careful and know that they can shut it off at any given time if something that they don't like is going on. It can easily be just turned off. They do whatever they need to do and turn it back on. So it's kind of scary. I just and then you're looking here at just within the last couple days, we're looking at like 70% down. So
Right. Yeah.
eh, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I really don't think that it will. Definitely won't flip Ethereum. Ethereum's got way too many strengths about it. There's way too many users. Solana's still in a echo chamber, I guess, a little bit, and siloed that way. But yeah, I do not see that kind of performance with it. Could it get up to 300-400 bucks? Maybe, probably, with the
I could see
euphoria.
that. I definitely could
Um,
see that. 5, 6 even maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was at 260 last cycle. I don't
Mhm.
see it um, not making a return to at least all-time high before. It's one of those coins that there's a big community behind it. There's a lot of people that love it. So as far as that goes, but in the past, how many coins have returned to beat their all-time high? There aren't very many.
Right. Yeah.
So it'll definitely be interesting to see where it can go. But yeah, 350, 400, maybe 500, but 2,000, man, that's some real high hopium, and I don't personally see that level being hit.
Well, the reason I don't either is because there's really nothing about Solana that makes it unique. I mean, it's another layer one. Really, the only thing unique about it right now is it just is the one that's pumping right now,
Right,
and that a
right.
lot of big industry people, a lot of Bitcoin maxis are getting behind it. I'm seeing Arthur Hayes tweet about it and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, this train has left the station for
But I
now.
don't even
So
see it pumping, man. I don't see what people are seeing, unless this is this is the FTX chart. So I don't know if that matters or not. FTX isn't even really around anymore.
Um,
Maybe.
basically, it's not even really. I mean, it did go down to about $9, I think, at its bear market low. So I mean that's as low as it was. So I guess it's probably done like a 10x off of that since that time. But nobody bought it then. You know what I mean? I don't mean literally nobody, but like only people who are like smart investors were like. And even then, I would have understood that. I mean, that thing going down to $9 with
Never
everything being
mind.
behind
I
it.
was looking at the wrong chart. Holy
Okay,
shit.
that's what I
Sorry
thought.
about
Yeah.
sorry guys.
But yeah, it was the whole way down to $9 at the bottom of the bear market, and pumping up a 10x basically. I mean, it's been over $100. I don't even know where it's topped out at. But I mean, clearly this isn't going to last here. So,
Yeah.
yeah. but I'm seeing, like I said, Bitcoin maxis get behind it and stuff like that. I just, it's one of those things, like if that's the choice you want to make and that's something you want to invest in, that's fine. I would just rather not be involved with a token where you're going to be getting dumped on,
Right.
all along the way, and it's scheduled and everything that's behind it. I would rather just come, from the bottom up with an ecosystem like PulseChain that is, completely real DeFi and doesn't have all these VC investors that are going to be dumping on you. Yeah, are there whales? Yeah, and we see them and we see their wallets and stuff like that, and we can track their behavior. That's kind of a cool thing. I mean, those wallets are doxed as far as their being public.
Right.
But I'd rather have that than the potential of what happens with holding something like Solana. So now that
So
you have
it's
the
up.
right chart up, go ahead.
Yeah, now that I have the right chart up, it is up 8x from this low back in June of 23. So
Right.
yeah, it made it 8x. It has pulled back just a hair from 125-ish down to, well, it's at 111 now.
Yeah.
But I still don't change my outlook, of between 3 and 500 being the top of the cycle. Now, will that put the market cap past Ethereum? I know the supply is just crazy out of whack for this, isn't it? There's a lot of volume or a lot of tokens,
Right.
and it fluctuates. I believe the more I forget how the market structure of how it works. Like the more volume there is, the more coins there are, the lower the price goes. Don't they burn some or something like that? It's weird how the tokenomics of it works.
Yeah, it is something similar to that. I mean, again, I
Yeah,
know
I forget what it is.
there'll be scheduled dumps and stuff like that as well. So either way, I mean,
Yeah,
for a fact that you will have downward sell pressure, by people who got in way, 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 way lower than you. So that's just the nature of the beast. So it's been the hot thing right now. I definitely don't think it's going to last, but it was the layer one that everybody kind of got behind here. So
yeah.
that's kind of where we're at with Solana. If you guys are here and enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor, hit the like. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. 2024 is on the horizon. Last bit of interesting news before we get into the nitty gritty here. You wanted to bring this up the other day, Ewok, and I do have the tweet. Unless you do, I can send it to you. But you were talking about Money Gang Crypto, who tweets a lot and does videos about Hex and PulseChain and stuff like that. He put a nice tweet together the other day about updates that are coming to ETH here. Basically this coming month throughout January and then heading into February as well. I just sent it to you in case you didn't have it anymore. But essentially, ETH devs set tentative dates for activating Cancun DNEB, if that's how that's pronounced, on all three public Ethereum test networks. So on the Goerli fork on January the 17th, Sepolia fork on January the 31st, and Haleski fork on February the 7th. Did you have the tweet there? I don't know if you
Yep.
wanted to bring it up. Cool.
Yep.
If you wanted to bring his tweet up.
Oh, all right. Well, I need to. Never mind. I'm on a different screen.
Oh, okay.
Sign in over here.
Well, while you're doing that anyway, what did you kind of make of some of the updates that they're doing here? Because, obviously with people that are invested in this ecosystem, PulseChain, any kind of updates that do happen to Ethereum, and, this is part of the reason where PulseChain was originally going to be a split of Binance Smart Chain. Now it's actually of Ethereum, obviously. So any kind of updates that we see on Ethereum, people are interested to see what is going on, how they'll be implemented into PulseChain. Will it be just as seamless or whatever? So what did you make of his tweet here and these updates that are coming to Ethereum, though?
Well, so there's 3 different updates. One of them, and I'm going to have to refer back to this, the on-chain data storage costs is going to be a lot more efficient. That's going to make storing data, doing transactional things a little bit cheaper. The other one was about, I think it was they called them blobs or something like that.
Yeah, I saw it as blobs. Yeah.
And what that does is it allows big groups of data to be sent together. A lot of that stuff is going to be good for layer 2 stuff. So not going to really help layer 1 Ethereum users, but that will help with the layer 2 charges. And I know when things get super expensive, a lot of people like to bridge over to layer 2, play around over there, and then bridge back. So that will lower that fee. The one thing I'm not sure is, and I didn't see it anywhere when I was doing some research, was the S-load fee. Now, the S-load fee is the thing that actually does the charges when you're performing calculations. And Hex uses the S-load function quite a bit, very S-load intensive. And I remember when they increased the S-load charges, I think we went up by 3.4x in fees. So I don't see a proposal for any of that in here. Now, if it helps with the EIP, the 1153 with the on-chain data storage, if there's a way to possibly put some data storage in there so that rather than calculating the hex fee every day, it can maybe group something by the year. It can pull data and say, all right, this was a year's worth, and this was a year's worth, and this was now. I don't know, depending on starting day or ending day, if that would work or not. But somebody may be able to optimize it a little bit for kind of figuring that out. Now, the contract is locked, so I don't know if anything is able to be done about it. But I like these. Yes, they will be able to be easily implemented into PulseChain, once they're live, but they're doing them on their test nets first to make sure, there's no issues with anything like that. And then it'll be launched live on Ethereum. At that point, I think the PulseChain devs will be able to, put it in pretty easily. Not that we have any issues with PulseChain fees right now, but down the road, if we expect the coin to do 10,000x, that could also mean 10,000x on your gas fees too. So, don't forget about that. We do want this to be a busy chain. And as that happens, the gas fees will eventually go up too if we get what we want. So all these important things are going to be good to be, ported over to PulseChain. So
yeah. Anything that makes ETH better will contribute to making PulseChain better, which will make PulseChain even better than ETH every single time it happens. So that is good. I mean, I don't think we're going to see, anything concrete with far lower gas fees for some of these things right now. But ETH does updates. They've done a few over the last couple of years. They're going to continue to do them. And presumably over the years, things will get a little bit more tenable on that side. And hey, I mean, if you want to transact anything right now over the last 2 days, definitely a great time to do it. We're basically seeing bear market lows type of Goi, excuse me, right now. So if you do want to do anything on ETH, you certainly should do it right now. I would recommend anyway. So
yeah, gas fees are 15 right now, and that's the fastest. So I haven't seen it that low in quite some time. If you've got anything to do, take advantage of it now. Make some stakes, unstake something if you've been waiting, so that it stops burning and wasting away. Take advantage of it now for sure.
Yeah, this is, and I agree, because this is due to the holiday. I mean, frankly, today even Goi was lower for most of the day than I would have guessed it would have been. We do have the new year coming up, so I'm sure we'll see maybe a dip back again for it. But I made some moves last night, bridging over into PulseChain, just because I knew I was going to get a discount on those ETH fees. So definitely a good chance to do that right now.
Yeah,
if there's anything you need to do.
Look at that. I mean, I'm sharing the screen for the gas fees, so it's way down there. Hasn't been this low in a while, so
yeah,
take advantage.
Definitely take advantage of it for sure. So that's kind of what's going on with ETH. So we'll follow that here over the course of the next 2 months. Should be interesting. In terms of PulseChain, so the faucet to get new investors in PulseChain when they do bridge over is now already live. Went live last week, a mere 24 hours or so after Richard Hart tweeted that it would be cool to have one. GoPulse, I believe, was the first one to get it live. I know Pulse Coin List was also working on one too, but GoPulse's is now live. So if you do have a new wallet where you have never come over to PulseChain, if you are a new PulseChain investor, whatever it is, I think the credentials are really just, is it a new wallet that you've not claimed or used a Faucet to get Pulse before, and you have no Pulse in said wallet, you'll be eligible to do that. So I want to ask you about those specifics, Ewok, and also just the fact that, after RH mentioning this, literally within a day, it was already taken care of for people. So
Yeah.
what do you make of that and the qualifications to be able to use that faucet?
Very cool. Very cool. I was happy that it got done so quickly. The one thing that I was kind of confused about, and I haven't played around with it because, I sacrificed. So obviously I have Pulse,
Right.
and that kind of disqualifies any of them. But so the one that was done, I think you get 1,000 Pulse immediately. Like, you don't really have to do anything. If you bridge to a new wallet, I think it just looks to see that, and you automatically get 1,000. The problem is the Go Pulse one was giving 10,000, but you had to have no Pulse in your wallet. So I think the one of them was kind of counteracting the other one. And I haven't really heard anybody talking about that. I wish they would have kind of put their heads together a little bit and said, hey, let's, combine forces here, because we have this set to do it, provided you meet these 3 criteria, right? It was no Pulse, bridge within the last 72 hours, and then I forget what the third one was. Do you remember?
I think it was just having never claimed anything from a faucet before or something like that.
Okay,
I think
fair
it was
enough.
just those 3. Yeah.
And you would have gotten 10,000 Pulse for that. But then the other one, if you do it, it automatically sends you 1,000. So it kind of cancels that other
Yeah.
one out.
I see what you're saying. You can't use the 10,000 one if you already did the 1,000 one. Yeah.
Well, and you don't have a choice, because I think it just gives it to you as soon as you bridge over. So,
I see.
yeah, I wish that's my only gripe. But man, once again, the community is awesome for the stuff that they build, and they're giving out money. They're essentially giving everybody a start to say, hey guys, over here, come over to our playground, play around with it. We even give you some gas so that you can do whatever you want. And that was one of the things, that I think we all thought would happen a little earlier. I thought that some of these communities would have said, hey, we got free stuff over here, let's go play with it. And it still hasn't happened yet. So we'll see if this, not only the free bridge, the
bridge
fees have been removed. You still have your Ethereum fee, which you can't control that. But the bridge fees are gone, and you get some free Pulse to play with once you get over here. So it's pretty awesome. I was again taken back by the amazing community that we have of builders and just knowledgeable people on how to do this stuff. So pretty cool.
I totally agree. And how about Go Pulse? I mean, they really have been a catalyst for all of these things. Richard even mentioned them specifically on stream the other night. He was using
Couple
them
times.
Yeah, he was using them to look at the market. So it was all very, very cool.
Yeah.
And you have to feel good if you're those guys for sure.
Yep.
One other update that we are seeing, and I am really interested in your view on this, because this is not a product I feel that I would probably use. I don't know. And people have kind of gone back and forth on it. And yeah, to correct something, I know Sami mistakenly tweeted this the other day, but so a PulseChain debit card off ramp, underline off ramp only, is now live from BlockBlend. They tweeted it out the other day. It was as of Christmas Day. It is not a debit card on ramp, like some people thought. And really, I mean, that's what Coast is also for. They have access to a credit card or a debit card on there. But an off ramp only straight to a debit card from BlockBlend. What do you make of I mean, this really kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, it wasn't really all that I saw all that much talked about, but yeah, they said inspired by BlockBlend IO's overwhelming support by the PulseChain community, we're thrilled to announce our next big thing. The Pulse token is now available on BlockBlend's prepaid debit card off ramp. So starting yesterday at noon, you'll be able to bridge Pulse to the Visa MasterCard privately with their crypto cards, a seamless blend of convenience, privacy, and community-driven utilities. And yeah, they shout out to the PulseChain community in their tweet that they've continued to use and support our utilities since launch. So yeah, cool. I mean, just cool that another
Yeah.
thing is being built for it. So yeah, what do you make of this story?
Well, I will give warnings about it, because I think there were a lot of people that thought, well, hey, I can just kind of keep my PulseChain coins over here, and then just spend them as I want to. I really don't think that's how it works. When you send them in, essentially you're selling them for US
Mhm.
dollar immediately. So if you send 1 million Pulse over, it will automatically cash it out, sell it, and turn it into that USD value, which then kind of preloads a. It's almost like a prepaid gift card that you could buy
Mhm.
at whatever, like a Visa card or a MasterCard, that you just preload. So that's the system that they're using. It's not something that you can keep the coins on and kind of wait for it to go up. It's a pretty much an automatic sell.
Right.
As far as I know, I mean, there's not a whole lot of information about it. There's really nowhere that I even saw to order a card. So I went in and looked at it. I'm not interested right now.
Yeah.
We don't have the type of gains in PulseChain to be spending them. Um, I know crypto.com has a card very similar where you can load your wallet in whatever token. I think you can just even send, you can do the transaction, send over the USDC, and boom, it's there to spend as you wish too. So there's already products out there. I would just be very hesitant as a new company, because we don't
Yeah.
know a whole lot about them. They kind of came out of nowhere. It was just very all of a sudden. So when something like that happens, I urge you to use extreme caution until they've been around for a little while, until you hear some good reports. There's always going to be some people that use it right away. And I hope that, they're on the up and up, but they just kind of came out of nowhere. That was my original, like, man, this is really cool, but who are these guys and where did they come from? So I did see another tweet, and I can't even remember who it was from, that said, also urging caution, that they knew something about the guys backing it. I'm not going to speak on it because I don't even remember what it was. I read it quickly. I wish I would have taken some notes, or even remembered who said it. But yeah, just be careful with some of this new stuff. But it is a great idea. Once the markets have some time to age a little bit and to get some stableness about them and some price performance, then yeah, it'd be great. But again, proceed with caution. Cool
Yes.
idea though.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was looking on Twitter. I mean, they only have 7,500 followers, but I mean, they've been active on there for it looks like nearly a couple years now, anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they have a full-fledged website and stuff like that. White paper. The website looks good for what it's worth. So, yeah, check out BlockBlend. Oh, it's BlockBlend. Have I been
Block
saying that?
blend. Yeah,
Yeah, I've been
not
saying
bet.
BlockBend, whatever.
It's blend.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it shows how much I know anyway. But yeah, if you want to check out their website, I will put it in the chat there for you guys to check out. Yeah, but still, either way, they are somebody who isn't, unique to PulseChain. This isn't necessarily a PulseChain creation. They have ways of bridging. Yeah, actually, I'm looking at the chart right in the middle of their site. They have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance, Matic, Avalanche, Solana, Phantom. I don't know what that symbol is. SHIB, I assume, Pulse Chain, some other dog, and another symbol I don't know. So if you guys want to check that out, there's some other tokens there as well. It looks like mainly layer ones, though. But yeah, Pulse Chain is only one of like 10 tokens on there, it looks like. So
Yeah.
yeah, check it out. I agree with you. Not something I'm, beating the doors down to go get involved with or anything. But the website looks good. I will say that for sure. So yeah, says partners in the press with Chainlink, actually, Benzinga and Yahoo Finance. So yeah, they look pretty legit. So I agree with you. Yeah, just be careful with it. And like you said, it's not like we have all these massive profits to be doing something like that anyway. That's not something I would be doing at this juncture.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So
I think it was Igloo Bamboo.
ah,
Very well-known Mexican. That's he's probably got just as many followers as they do, but I think he wrote up some stuff. You have to go look at it and read it. I'm trying to find it, but I don't see it right now. Either way, I don't want to hold up the stream.
Yeah, it's all good. He is definitely a good dude. I co-sign him for sure. Yeah, so that is another piece of news to PulseChain. Let's turn our attention to the main event here. We're going to get into the Richard Hart Christmas live stream. We're going to get into it in grave detail. But before we do that, if you guys are enjoying the stream, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate all of you being here. We got a nice active chat tonight. And we do this every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Merry Christmas to you guys. Happy New Year as well. We're on the verge of 2024. So what a great surprise, though, that Richard did announce that he was going to make a video on Christmas. Took pretty deep into the day for most of us. Some people I saw were clamoring, like, where's the video? I thought he was going to go live. And I got to say, first things first, just to say, you and I were talking about this in the green room. When I heard him say he was going to do a video, I was like, don't get your hopes up. Like, this is going to be, I'm going to say upper end 10 minutes with my projection. And it would just kind of be like a drop in. Hey, things are going great with Pulse. Maybe a little, bragging about calling the top, which, we had all that. But just kind of a quick hello. And then he was going to get out of Dodge. When I saw an hour and a half, man, I was definitely excited. And I know you have now watched it twice, Ewok. And I saw it about 1.5 times. But yeah, what do you make just of that fact? The fact that he really did, and we'll go kind of point by point here in a moment, but he really did go in on that for as far as the length of time.
Yeah, it took me by surprise. I was with the same expectation. Oh, I guess I shouldn't say I had expectations, but I kind of assumed that we would get a, yes, a little bit of bragging Richard, a little bit of humble Richard, a little bit of Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thanks to the builders. That's kind of what I was thinking that we would get. Maybe a little talk on price performance and timing. And that was it, kind of thing. And my first reaction was just like yours, I think, when I saw that it was over an hour and 15 minutes, or it was like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. Was like, holy crap, this has a lot of substance. So I immediately, watched it right away. So yeah, I was quite excited when I saw the time on it. I'm like, there's got to be some good stuff here. So might as well jump in now.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I thought, honestly, epic overall stream. I think most people agreed with that. He was definitely in his prime form. No tone change really whatsoever. It was very, very good. And I mean that in a good way. It was like good, confident. And there's, people haven't seen him. You know what I mean? Like, people haven't seen him on video now for, it's been like a calendar year since he was on Maddie's event last January.
Yeah. Well, that's not true. He did a video at the very beginning for the premiere of the Highest of Stakes movie.
Oh, I knew that.
He did a little bit, but yeah, you said no video, but that was done in August, I think it was. Right. But that was a very short. It was 20 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe at the beginning of that. But that was the last time we had seen him on film. Anyway, he did a voice recording that was, I don't know, 30 minutes or
40 minutes or something.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't even remember when that was, but yeah, the last live stream we had was Maddie's conference in January.
Yeah. That's more what I meant, is like long form live stream stuff. Yeah. So it's really good to see. So kind of delving into what he got into. So first off, he mentioned the IPFS links and how decentralized PulseChain is at this point. He mentioned how downloading them is the optimal way and the most secure way to do it. But he understands and sees how some people get scared away by that, because your antivirus blocker or some Microsoft crap is going to scare you into thinking like, oh no, don't download this file. You're not allowed to do that. And mention, just people being frightened by that. But that overall, that he considers it to be a good thing, obviously, with the IPFS links, and encourage people to actually download. So I am glad that he did acknowledge, I don't know if I'd say a concern, but just a bummer that people aren't educated. And again, that's I think one of the reasons he wanted to resurface. But is that education that, like, just because your antivirus on your PC tells you something or says something or speculates something doesn't mean it's true, because it's still preventing you running a code that you want to run locally on your own. Yeah. So what did you make of all that? I thought it was interesting to hear him talk about the even more real DeFi nature of PulseChain.
Well, once again, we get into the nitty gritty of why, and Richard always does a really good job of explaining that the reason it yells at you is because it's not signed. There is no approval from Microsoft saying, "Here's who wrote this script. Here's who did this," and got a license or whatever you want to call it. That is true DeFi. So, he explained why you get the warning and not just that it's okay, but why. So, I enjoy it when he goes a little bit deeper into letting why that thing is possibly going to pop up and why it scares you. But, in this case, it really shouldn't.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. But it was cool to see him touch on that, especially because, that's been one of the hot topics within, the community and stuff, not
Mhm.
necessarily retail, because they're not even here yet and they won't care at all likely by the time they are, and green candles are abound. But that's been one of the hot topics within people that invest in PulseChain over the last few weeks. So it was cool to hear him talk about that. He mentioned not liking to mention other PRC20 copies. He did obviously pump up, hey, world's largest airdrop, everything from Ethereum copied over to PulseChain and all that stuff. But mentioned not liking to mention those other PRC20s to get people wrecked. He specifically actually mentioned the wrapped BTC. And I I didn't even look further in to verify it. I just kind of assumed it was true, but I saw somebody tweeting today that it then like plummeted 50% or something.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So
because he had
mentioned
brought it
that.
up before, and they
Yeah,
bought it. That's why he
I
doesn't like.
remember. I remember. Yeah. Yeah, well, there was that, and then also I think there were some speculators out there that there was a cloaked reference to PDI maybe in this conversation. I mean, this is just the people that continue to pound that narrative,
Yeah.
whether they are eventually right or wrong. But yeah, what did you mention? Or yeah, what did you mention? What did you make of him talking about not wanting to promote many PRC20s, even the copies that people from ETH may enjoy realizing that they can claim on PulseChain?
Well, so he did, mention, like you said, he mentioned the Bitcoin. He mentioned that the loans, things were being built. I just think that if he doesn't create it, he's not going to talk about it a whole lot.
Right.
So, he's very leery. And then, out of the woodwork, here come the Atropa PDI people saying, well, yeah, but he really meant this. But he didn't say it, but he really meant this. And we're still going to $1. And I'm like,
Right. Right.
oh man, here we go all over again. I thought we kind of moved on past that. I honestly think that Richard has a stable coin planned. I don't know for sure, but it would be my guess that there is something planned. He had always said that he had something up his sleeve, and I think that's what it is. I think there will be his own native stable coin on PulseChain once things get a more solid footing. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to get people wrecked, and that's kind of what he's always done. He's always tried to look out for people, not talked about the things he didn't create, because he said himself, if I don't have the time to look into it or read the code or check the audits or things like that, I'm very leery to talk about it. I like what people are doing, I like what they're building, and I don't want to talk about it because I haven't looked into it enough. So that's essentially that's what I got out of what he was saying. But crediting people for building and bringing new audiences over, and giving them some of the toys, basically, just without saying it so much, is create something cool. Just don't rug pull.
Right.
you
Yes,
know,
I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. And I understand his hesitance to do that. I wouldn't want to do it either. That's
yeah,
why, like we said a moment ago, talking about Go Pulse and things like that, that he did mention, he's mentioned Hedron's front end before. Anything that he does mention like that, I mean, it's essentially, he only really does that if he's pretty much co signing it. He's never going to utter words of anything like that
yep,
until, he feels that confident about it because his reputation is too big. He knows how many people follow him, and he just doesn't want that on him. So yeah, I mean,
and one more thing.
Go ahead.
One more thing. He has always been, if you've watched Richard from the early days, he's always been one of those type of guys where he won't mention a scam. He would rather not talk about it at all rather than to come out and say, hey guys, this is a scam, because it still gets people to go look at it. And then some of them will end up buying it. So he won't talk about it at all. If you don't hear him talk about something, not always, it's not that he supports it, but he doesn't want you to get scammed either. So think about that as well. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, it's fine. I don't even remember what I was going to say, but I was going to move to the next point here. So then he talked about kind of macro market conditions, which is something I think a lot of people were wanting to hear from him just because of everything that is going on in the world right now. The fact that it does seem like the Fed is going to pivot by the middle of next year and start cutting rates again. We've never really seen Bitcoin perform in this kind of environment, yada, yada, yada. So it all kind of narrowed him down to ask the question, is this the bull market? And then he obviously said that the most correct thing you can say about that is that it depends on your time frame, which is exactly right. Did you buy Bitcoin at 15K? Did you buy the bottom of PulseChain and you're just, sitting here waiting? Well, yeah, it's probably a start of a bull market for you right now. But he looked at macro, assured the downturn of the Fed, basically said for sure, like, we're going to see some kind of a downturn after the Fed pivot here next year. But says the timing of everything is on schedule otherwise, meaning like the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. Yeah. I didn't catch a definitive, like, when he's confident about something, he will say it. Yeah. I didn't catch like a definitive confident call, which led me to the fact that not that he's necessarily like worried about market conditions, but just that he just what I'm saying, that he doesn't really have a direction to go, and he's interested to see what is going to happen, what will be the reactions to this pivot and things like that. So yeah, what did you glean from that?
I think so too. If you paid close enough attention, he says, well, I think we've spent enough time at these levels to where we can go up. And then he did mention, it also depends on when you bought. So, he mentioned both of those, as far as when you bought and how long it's lasted, because historically the bear markets only last so long. And he kind of hinted around without saying it as much as, I think we've had enough time. I think we've spent enough time down here to shake out a lot of the weak hands, a lot of the people that didn't believe. And that's kind of what I took from it. The combination of both of those. So, but again, he did say that there would be a pullback, just like historically there's been every other time that there was a pivot. So,
right.
Along with saying, yeah, I think we bottom, but also being cautious enough to understand that we're going to see a little bit more downside too at some point here. So just be careful.
Yeah. I don't think he wanted to say anything definitive there. And and I, to me, I always just default to that too, like the timing thing. Regardless of all these other little narrative things you want to assign to it, it usually comes down to the cycles. So I'm glad he mentioned about the time, because that's what I'm most confident in as well. Yeah. And then like really the big kahuna. So I mean, this lasted probably 20, 25 minutes of the stream was all of the legal stuff. So he talked the Constitution, similar to a lot of the things he's been tweeting, frankly, over the last few months, which is great. But he talked about it, talked about the Bill of Rights, talked Gary Gensler swearing an oath to the Constitution for the SEC that he will basically uphold what he needs to do for that entity. He's not acting in self-interest, or at least he's not supposed to, and saying that Gensler is violating his oath by censoring freedom of movement, freedom of contract. And Richard has said this many times about the blockchain networks being communication, speech, and word processing systems. And I thought this was really interesting, because this is the thing that people I don't understand. He even has to correct himself when he talks about custodying coins, like holding your own coins and stuff like that. That it's really information that you have the access to. But he mentioned that freedom to transact is above all else. So what did you kind of make of just like his values on these factors that we're talking about here, and then I'll kind of get in even more to like how the SEC basically is just, ignoring all of them.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway of all of that, where he thought people should come together and kind of file suit against Gary for acting the way he's acting, speaking on behalf of himself, because he if you've ever heard him talk about it, he's like, well, I don't want to speak for the SEC, but in my opinion, well,
Right.
there you go. That's him talking from his standpoint and not using the SEC as a somewhat of a shield, because they are protected when they speak on behalf of the companies, and he's not doing that. He's damaging the markets. He's literally speaking in terms that he is manipulating markets.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's as clear as day, because they won't make a determination. People are scared, and there are consequences for that type of speech. And he even said, I would love to see some people file suit against him for his capricious behavior, and it's not okay when they do that kind of stuff and manipulate the markets. And he talked about Gary having the revolving door there of spending so much time with JP Morgan, and now he's the one kind of overseeing the rules that protect his friends. Pretty big conflict of interest there, if you ask me. So I think there's a lot of things that go into some of the things that he was saying. And the one little comment that made me chuckle was, he says Gary's just not careful with what he says. And he says, here I am hedging everything I say because I don't want to catch a case. And I thought that was kind of funny, the way he said it. But he is very careful to not give forward-looking price statements and things of that nature, because he doesn't want to have it used against him. So he's always been that way. He's always spoken very carefully, even back when Hex was being created. He would make sure to say, well, it's designed to do this. I don't know what it'll do, but here's what it's designed to do. So just the carefulness of his words. And Gary doesn't have that. He just says whatever he feels like on the day, I think, and changes his mind quite often. When he was teaching classes at MIT, he said most of these coins aren't securities, and now all of a sudden his tune has changed and it's very different. So, I just, that's what I got from it, and I would love to see. I know there is amicus brief that's being worked on.
Right.
I would love to see this stuff added in there, and some sort of financial penalty for Gensler and what he's doing, by just not determining that, not deciding something. We'll get into this later, I think, because there was a very good post by Nuclear Herbs about this whole thing. We can talk about that here in a little bit, but it kind of goes down that road of when they won't make a decision. It's up to the judge then to decide. And do you really want them to decide these type of things without some sort of previous history? Not really. So they're not there to make the laws. They're there to decide on them. And if you don't have historical decisions to make decisions about, it makes it very tough. So that's where we're at.
And the SEC is not helping to provide any of that.
No.
Kind of continuing with the SEC stuff, he said that they're interfering with communication and creating a chilling effect, something that you just touched on, Ewok. Exactly. I mean, they're kind of just putting the cart before the horse and ruining things for investors, contrary to what they're saying is that the people that create these products are ruining things for the investors. He talked about their massive failures left and right, the embarrassment that they've been over the last couple of years, fails against XRP. Just recently, a judge ruled SEC lawyers, SEC lawyers were lying in a recent case and were threatened fines and sanctions. And he said, how about you just don't lie to the judge? Obviously, they lost 4 out of the last 5 cases. Again, says Gensler himself is acting on his own, not for the SEC, and is directly affecting markets and defending his friends, much like you said. You mentioned JP Morgan and stuff like that. You didn't mention SBF, the Clintons. Maybe I shouldn't say that on air. Who knows what will happen to us? But all of the people that Gensler is in bed with. And just the SEC's motto. And I don't know if it's like them as an entity that has said this or if Gensler himself said this, but the idea that if you're not losing a lot of cases, it means you aren't bringing enough.
Right.
Like you just need to keep throwing shit at the wall, which we know that's what we're doing. That's a phrase that you and I have used time after time about all this stuff. Like when you read their complaint, it's nonsense. They clearly don't know what they're talking about. There's errors all through it. He also talked about how the SEC is kind of crumbling as well with people like Hester Pierce, dissenting opinions. He applauded her as well as, I forget his name, but another guy that's on the committee. So a third of the committee now, a third of the commission is dissenting from Gary Gensler right now, at least. Yeah. So, what do you make on and actually go ahead and talk about the nuclear herbs tweet too, if you want to, because it does coincide really with this. I know it's a long one, but go ahead.
Well, it was a very long post. Maybe while I'm talking about it, if you have it saved, put it in the chat for people to read, because it is a very good read. And yes, some of these guys are dissenting opinions right now, and it's been good. That's why you need more than one person. Not just one person making decisions, but there are people that are not agreeing with very much of what he's saying. And, unfortunately, they're still not willing to give any kind of clarity. And I think that's kind of where we're at. And I think when everyone says, oh, well, this is all being avoided, there's somebody is on the run. Well, that's not the case, obviously. First of all, there was a point made by DGen Moonboy here too. What do you think the point was to say that he hasn't lived in the United States for 20 years? Well, part of that was because he's trying to help the people in the United States. He realizes what a broken system that it is. And, he said, I'm here spending time trying to save you guys and remind you of the rights that you have. They violate so many different Bill of Rights every time. And, he would go through those and, not only the freedom of speech, but the freedom of movement and the transactional. He talked about the transactional freedoms as well. And when you don't have those type of things, it restricts your freedom of movement. So, that was, again, it's so relieving just sometimes just to sit back and listen to the intelligence. We need it a lot, I think. Sometimes we rely on it, and it's just, anyway, the nuclear herbs thing was mostly talking about how without rulings and previous rulings, it makes the judges' job very hard. They're not there to set rules. They're there to rule on previous history and things that have been done in the past where there has been cases that are either won or lost, and rulings that will determine the outcome of other things. So, when there is not clarity, when there's he went into the long story of the Second Amendment rights, where states at one point were deciding, well, do you have a right to bear personal arms, or is it the right of a militia? You know what I mean? And there was a lot of discrepancy there between a lot of different states until there was one ruling that was made, and it cleared it up for a lot of people. And then, they did come back and said, yes, you do have the right to protect yourself. And it was a personal right to bear arms, and not the job of a militia. So yes, there's a lot of precedent that needs to be set. And again, in crypto, we don't have it. We don't have anybody willing to make it. And a lot of times what we're determining outcomes on is the Howey test, and that was made over 200 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're using antiquated rulings for new technology that really doesn't fit. Um, I do know when Hex and a lot of this stuff was made, the Howey test was a big part of it. You know, we got to kind of stay because that's what they're using, right? Even though it is old and outdated, that's what was used to kind of build it. To stay within those lines, to say, well, we can't do this, and we can't expect profit from the work of others, and you do the work yourself, and you should have no expectation um, of anything. And so, you know, when you stay close to what you have, you kind of have to work with what you have, but it's not good enough, and we need new things. And I think that's why there's been so much delay, in hoping that something will come out, some kind of precedent that we can use moving forward that makes it a lot clearer and everyone's job a little bit easier in defending some of these cases. So,
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it was a great write-up by Nuclear Herbs. If you're overwhelmed by it, he did just put a TLDR at the bottom of it if you want to check that out,
yeah,
which is kind of what I did read too.
yeah,
But yeah, I love that Richard kind of approached everything with the SEC from all angles. He's certainly not afraid of anything that he has to say, especially calling out Gary Gensler specifically. But then finishing up kind of on the main points. And I mean, this really carried, man, I think it was about 40 minutes in, and it carried the rest of the stream, really, all this SEC and basically crypto legal stuff. But he mentioned that the SEC themselves say that they know seed words, that they have money in them, and that they'd owe taxes on them. We've seen him tweet about that before. They also have Uniswap code. They have time locked Bitcoin and seed words for those. And without knowing what else those seed words do hold, you know, they don't know what else they could actually hold by having those seed words by other entities and things like that.
right.
So, kind of his final call out there. I mean, what did you make of those comments? Because this is where I just don't understand where people hate on this guy so much. I understand that this is why I know it's a boring comparison at this point, but this is why, you know, he always gets called the Donald Trump of cryptos, because people are fooled by this base layer of bull crap, you know, that they're just not able to make it through for one reason or another. And they're missing the real meat and potatoes of what the guy has to say. And nobody else is really talking about these things to this extent. Or with this specificity, and especially with this like custody and coins and stuff like that by the SEC. So, yeah, what did you make of these comments to kind of round off the interview? And then I'll get any other thoughts you had on it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that kind of confused me is I wasn't sure what he was talking about. That they have the Uniswap code. I didn't really understand that as much. Either way, one of the things that he did say was, you know, that they have these seed words, and I wonder how many airdrops that they've gotten that they would owe taxes on, and I think that's a big part too. You know, we don't pay unrealized gains. We don't pay unrealized capital gains, I should say. Although they have talked about it before, but you know, it's still not a law that we do that in the United States. Is we don't pay unrealized capital gains. But you know, if they did, they would have to be held accountable of that as well. You know, I think that one of the big things and why he's looked at that way is because we're not all on the same side. You know, you have to sit back and realize that the Bitcoiners are Bitcoiners. The DeFi people are DeFi people. You know, there's probably 3 or 4 camps of people. You know, you've got your Ripple, and that's kind of a little bit different. They've gone through their case. They're not, I think they consider themselves a little bit different. They're the bank coin, or they want to be the bank coin.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the Bitcoin folks who already think that their ruling's done. They don't really care what happens to anybody else because they've already ruled that, you know, Bitcoin was a commodity. So they don't care. And then you have the, you know, the Ethereum guys, and then, you know, you have the Richard Hart people. Some of those intersect. I think we're doing a good job of kind of intersecting with the Ripple folks a little bit. But the problem is the lobbyists, the ones that go back to making these rules or to get the rules made for the judges. We're still in, and this was part of I'm sorry, I keep going back to the nuclear herbs thing. I keep remembering more of what I read.
Go ahead.
There was a lot of that discussion in there too, is getting everybody on the same side to make rules that are standard across the board. And again, the people doing the most lobbying are the Bitcoiners. And they don't really care. They don't want to see DeFi succeed because as far as they're concerned, Bitcoin is the only coin. A lot of them are that way. I don't want to say all of them, but a lot of them are that way. So, I mean, that's just where we're at. And there's got to be some sort of movement that's created by some communities in order to get the lobbyists to actually listen. And I just think that's where we're at. And Richard was kind of calling action. It was a call to action for people to file suit and get on this. He didn't specifically say, meet with the lobbyists and get some rules made so that we have clarity. But that's really essentially what needs to happen in order for this to go the right way. And it takes time or a precedent set by somebody else who wants to go first. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think there is already a lawsuit against either Gary Gensler personally or the SEC by possibly Richard Hart and a team and or other crypto entities outside of the exchanges that we already know have taken action like Coinbase? Do you think the Charles Hoskinsons of the world, whoever the hell controls Solana at this point, I don't know. Do you think there are people? Do you think we just don't know about it yet, and major lawsuits will be coming against either the SEC or Gensler himself?
I think it needs to happen. If it hasn't, I think it will. It takes more than a day to bring something like that together, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And a call to action. You want to do it the right way. You want to get your ducks in a row. And DJ Moonboy, Jack Dorsey, he called him out too. For being an idiot. But yeah, so yeah, it takes time. Will there be? I think so. Are there currently? I don't know. I would hate to speculate on that. But I could easily see it happening very soon. I think there's enough ammo there to say stop. Well, so Gensler does have immunity when he speaks on behalf of the SEC, but when he just speaks on behalf of himself, he loses that immunity. So that's a very important part of when he's talking outside of the congressional stuff and outside of the SEC rulings and on behalf of them, he loses that protection. So
yeah,
something to think about.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If he starts going outside those lines and starts talking about what I, Gary Gensler, think personally, that's when the immunity of the, the shield, it kind of goes away for you. So, overall though, terrific. I definitely think a lawsuit's in the works. I mean, I don't know. I assume by multiple entities. I think they're going to come attacking the SEC here soon because, we've been in the bear market. We've been in like the SEC attacks everybody for the last 2 to 3 years or whatever. Now I think we're going to see the opposite. I could see on the way up, everybody firing back. And I do not think that Gary Gensler is long for this world. As far as being the head of the SEC, I don't know anything else about him. But any other thoughts that you have on the Richard Hart stream there, Ewok, before we kind of get into the PulseChain leagues here?
I just think it would be a classic move by the Hexicans to be one of the first, and who knows how it would turn out. But to win a case against them that was brought against them,
right?
I think it would be an amazing timestamp in history to say, wow, these guys really mean business and, probably give a little bit more credibility. There's still people out there that think that the Hexicans are crazy and that we're just sheep and we're following ourselves to slaughter. And that's just not the case. I think it would just get a lot more eyes on it, on the whole ecosystem, if we were some of the first ones to take them on and win. That would be pretty amazing. I would love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very confident, and you know, the crypto actions they're going to be taking against Gensler and the SEC here. I'm glad Coinbase has already gone on the offensive, and I think we're going to see it from these other entities as well.
Yeah.
So glad to see Richard Hart back. Who knows how much more we'll get of that stuff. It didn't seem like he planned necessarily on doing any of that often. I mean, he even reminded people at the beginning of the stream, like, hey, I just did like a 40-minute audio a little bit ago, you know, and stuff like that. So it was cool to see him back, though. So, yeah, shout out to anybody. If you haven't seen that yet, I highly encourage you to watch it. You'll probably pick something up from it if you watch it even a couple of times like Ewok did. So, let's get into the leagues on PulseChain. If you guys are digging the stream, do us a favor. We got a lot of people in the chat tonight. I think the last time I looked, we got 85 here live, but we only have like half of those in likes. So what's going on? 47 likes. So smash the like if you're in here and enjoying the stream. We appreciate all of you being here. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you and yours. We do this every Tuesday night here. Right here on the YouTubes. Let's move on to leagues within PulseChain. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with these and, you know, maybe you weren't here, I mean, these really originated with Hex, right? And then just have kind of been adopted throughout DeFi, I think. But these little sea creatures kind of have been, you know, around since Hex. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, you're correct. It started back whenever Hex.live was a website. It was, I think, Firebun was the one that created it. Firebun and Steph went on to do Staker app.
Yes.
But it was, yeah, that's where they were created. And then they've kind of evolved over time as far as the other coins go, and you know, how much people own as a percentage wise out of the whole supply, and that's one of the things that we want to talk about. So
yes. And so here was the point I wanted to talk about. So we'll see these float around every now and then, and it's like, okay, what do I need to become a turtle? And actually, I'll look at the result of our poll here so far tonight. So yeah, I gave 4 options that I figured were the most realistic of anybody that would be watching. So I went down to turtle. Or excuse me, went down to, yeah, that's the smallest turtle. Anything below that, it really doesn't take much to have crab status these days. So I went from turtle to squid to dolphin to shark, which, if they're telling the truth, 6% of our viewers are at so far tonight. So that's 64 votes. So participate in that poll if you would like to. So yeah, that's kind of around what I figured, that the turtle squid kind of area would be the biggest ones. But something to keep in mind here, and you know, you will see people tweeting these leagues for PulseChain, for PulseX, for Hex, and you know, it's dependent upon the circulating supply of the tokens. I have in my past like seen these and thought like, oh, cool, man. I'm doing better than I thought I was. Here's where I'm at or whatever. And then I've seen other ones where I'm like, holy shit, I'm like nowhere near where I thought I was. And it's because frequently you will see these get shared with including or excluding the origin address of the tokens. Now, you want to exclude the OA because some people, like if you would go on a CoinGecko or something like that, or maybe CoinMarketCap, which and then they probably don't even list PulseChain, I don't know, but they likely would have all of the tokens, including the OA on there. You want to actually exclude those because that means they're not in circulation, because they're really not, and it actually looks at how you stack up. So Ewok, do you want to kind of review the categories right now and speak a little bit to what I just said too? Because I think that's something a lot of people get tricked by, because yeah, you can see one thing one day and think, oh yeah, I'm doing really well. And then you see another thing and you're like, I'm nowhere near my goals. What the hell is going on? You know?
Right. So, and the way they go too is the percentage. If you look, we'll take Hex for example, and this is with the OA. Let's exclude. Well, actually, let's do it with first. So a Poseidon would need 65 billion tokens, right? Which is 10%. A whale would need 1%, and then so on and so forth. A shark is 0.01% or 0.1%. A dolphin is 0.01 and then 0.001. So that's how these leagues actually get broken down as far as supply goes. It's all a denomination of 10. So, but when you look at it with the OA, you know, you're at 652 billion. in order to get to a dolphin or a shark, say 65 million to get to a dolphin. But then when you exclude the OA, you really only need 8.9 million tokens to be a dolphin of what's really actually out there. So it is a big difference. And because a lot of those tokens you're not going to get if you include the OA. As far as I know, not one of them have sold ever. I don't know that they will ever. But currently they're not available. They're not for sale. So, you really want to look at it, like I said, without the OA tokens. And then you realize that there's only 89 billion of those, and not 652 billion. So it makes a big difference when you're looking at it and really what's attainable.
Right.
8 million right now hex is $88,000. It's, for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. But, when this price goes up to a few cents, 10 cents, it's going to be unattainable.
Right.
Even being a turtle times 10 now, then you're looking at $9,000. So that it's one of those things where, when you see it, depending on who ranks it, and you think that they're unattainable, well, if you take out the OA supply, you can get up there pretty good. Most people can get to, if they're dollar cost averaging, a squid in any of these positions. I think a squid is an easy target to get to if you've been good about dollar cost average, and trying to buy throughout these dips, and the prices have been a lot lower. So this is after, a little bit of price action. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So I take it. So you kind of answer my next question. You think, if you are somebody who maybe you're a little bit late to the party, maybe you're trying to get into this right now, which you're really not late. So I shouldn't have even said that, but you're not at the lows necessarily. But would you say that squid is the level you would want people to shoot to, that I'm not going to hold you to the fire or anything like that, but as far as making a substantial amount of money potentially from this cycle, that you would want to be aiming for squid if it were you and you were kind of just starting out right now to get at least.
If I was just starting out, yeah, that would probably be the goal. I mean, for somebody just starting, dolphin is probably a little bit harder to attain. Squid, even so, I know at the end of the last cycle, they were talking about turtles being the next millionaires. So the squids definitely became millionaires at the end of the last cycle. And if you, it really all depends on how much you make and how much you can DCA.
Right.
If you're only DCAing $100 a week, then maybe shoot for turtle to get to some of these things. And if you want to get a little bit of each one, that you're looking at what, 8, 11, you're looking at $2,500 basically,
Right.
To be a turtle in each one of those. And then, if you take 10 times that, then you're looking at 25,000. So, or yeah, probably about 25,000 to be a squid.
Maybe not even. Yeah, maybe a little short of that even.
Yeah, maybe a little bit less, but you got 8, 9, and 3. What's that? 17, 20. Yeah, it's 20 grand. 20 grand right now to be a squid in all three of these. I mean, the incentive token, remember that was up to $80. We're down to, I don't even know what the price is, as far as incentive goes, but we're looking at what, 57 cents. So yeah, I mean, things are really on sale. So just to think about some of these levels, it's definitely good to have goals. It's good to, some people don't care about it, it's a fun type of thing where you can kind of shoot for the next level or attain certain goals for yourself. It helps with that type of thing.
Well, I think not only is it fun, but it also, I think, can ease the mind of somebody who's just purely looking at the dollar value of their portfolio and just thinking like, oh, I want to go up. I want to go up. Just continuing to try to hit those levels, or just looking at the total amount of each token you have, Pulse, Hex, Pulse X, and seeing where you are. I think that can kind of ease people's minds,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would reference these. I mean, I would look at them commonly just to kind of see where you are, see if you're getting anywhere near the next tier, or just know that like, oh, okay, I'm already about halfway up there. So, being a Poseidon or a whale may not be anything that's possible for you in your whole life. Who knows? But if you can at least get some of these mid levels right now, that's really what you want to aim for, and not worry about the dollar value of your portfolio every single day. Go ahead.
So Blue Diesel says I'm confused. This is million. So what we're talking about is the supply of the tokens really is what mattered. And yes, they have a B and an M and a K for 1,000. So it's a little bit of everything. If you're looking to be a dolphin in Hex, you are talking millions. But only 895,000 tokens to be a
Right.
squid. So, incentive has a lot less supply. There's only a total supply of 20 million overall. There is no OA with incentive tokens. So that does not change when you add or exclude the OA. There is no OA for the incentive tokens. Something to think about that people don't often talk about. But yes, I mean, so excluding it, yes, there are certain ones to get to where these are million. PulseX, you need 205 million, which to get to a squid level, yes. So yeah, I just wanted to answer that. They're all different. It's
Yeah.
not. They're not all million of each one. They're different. Some are million, some are thousand, some are billion.
You have to know the token supply. Yeah, it's all up to the
Right.
total token supply of each one of the three major tokens. And GZ in the chat there, I just went ahead and put it back up on the screen. This is just at gopulse.com/leagues. If you go there, you'll see the exact screen that we are looking at. And at the bottom, again, like we were saying at the beginning, there is a button that you could push that says to exclude the OA. So you would want to do that to actually look at where you really would be. Yeah.
And keep in mind when you go to GoPulse, this has not been added. So you do have to either type the link out or copy and paste it and bookmark it because you can't get there from any of the drop downs.
I noticed that today. Yeah.
They've added it, but they didn't add it into any of the categories yet. So you do have to type it in gopulse.com/leagues.
Yeah, go directly to the link, bookmark it after that, and then you'll have it there. And these they'll fluctuate a little bit, possibly over time, just based on like circulating supply. But a great guide for yourself. Again, you will see people on Twitter sometimes kind of tweeting out like incorrect numbers that include the OA or something. I would just always reference this page. I think it's a really useful tool. So hopefully that was a learning experience for some of you guys. But either way, I think it's a good way to kind of ease your mind about where you are kind of in this market. So,
and it's something to have fun with, to compare it with your buddies, talk about with your buddies, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe you want to turn into a dolphin
fun.
like Randy Marsh in South Park. One
there
of
you
my favorite
go.
episodes of all time. Let's finish off with this. So this actually was the thumbnail of the show. We don't have too much time here. We're actually over where we usually go here. But where can PulseChain, we'll say the Pulse token anyway, and because everything is kind of liquidity bonded, the whole ecosystem, where could it get to price-wise by the Bitcoin halvening? And by that, we would say about May of 2024. The other day, Sami had a video. He was mentioning that if PulseChain followed Hex's kind of crazy patterns and how great it did, obviously, in the last cycle, we'd want to see an 18 to 20x by the halvening. Now, that is, if my math is correct, only 4 or 5 months away. So that if you do the math on your portfolio and you just see how many months that is compared to what we've kind of been experiencing here for months, that seems like a complete impossibility. At this point, many people would be happy just to get like a 20x maybe by the end of the bull market on their whole portfolio. I've seen that sentiment out there from some people. So Ewok, what do you think I'm not going to ask you like this straight up chance, but I guess what's the probability you think that we could see this ecosystem go, I guess you wouldn't quite call that parabolic, but it's pretty damn good to start off the bull market and get to the halvening point up 15 to 20x from here. Do you think something like that could happen, or do you think we will continue this kind of slow slog that we've been on here?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but 20x is a 2000%, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So that puts us at 0.001, which is only a 10x up from sacrifice. I don't think that's that unrealistic. Now, I'm sorry, not by the Halvening. I think we could get half of that. I think I think you're looking. I think we could maybe 2x, 3x the sacrifice rate by that point. It's not that far away.
Right.
And, I think we still need some growth. I think we need to garner some attention from outside people. But when it starts, man, it runs. A lot of times it happens fast. So, depending on, it could be the video yesterday from Richard could set off some crazy waves. That could be a catalyst that does take off. I think by March, April-ish, though, I think to anticipate being back to SAC level or 2x from there is healthy. Because we got a lot of time to go after that. We are a trailing market. Don't forget we move slower than what Bitcoin does, and after. So when Bitcoin makes its moves, we follow a trailing type of indicator type thing. So yeah, I mean, I would be happy just to get back to sacrifice by April. And you also have to realize that are people done selling? I think getting back to sacrifice, you may see some dumpers too. Unfortunately, that could slow down the process. It's not going to go straight up. We're going to want and need some healthy pullbacks when it does that. So who knows? I would love to be back to sacrifice by then, but even some say that's wishful thinking.
Well, hey, I mean, that'd be less than a 2x from here. And with what you were saying being like 2x or so above SAC rate, that would nearly be the all-time high. I mean, the all-time high for Pulse is what, 3 zeros and 2.5, right? I believe. So not too long after launch. So I think that's very realistic. And I mean, that right there would be what, like a 5x or something from where we're at even right now. So again, that 20x by the Halvening, that would be if we were going to see it play out like Hex, which at this point, not many people are calling for anymore. Wes got crypto. I think he's the only guy calling for it. But other than that, there's not too many people calling for those kind of numbers. Who knows? I mean, we could see it for sure. I would love it, obviously, more than anybody. But I think that we will see bullish action by then. And I think what you said is a pretty good target, Ewok. I mean, I would think that we would be above SAC rate by then. And I could see us up near all-time highs again, actually, for Pulse by that point. And you got to remember how long of a time that is, too. I mean, sometimes, we can sit here and say, like, well, man, that's only 4 or 5 months. I mean, in crypto, that's the equivalent of, a couple of years, actually.
Right. In the traditional markets, yeah.
Yeah. So I could see it. I wouldn't go out there as far as saying a 20x by that time. But, hey, we're going to see more and more publicity around this thing. We're going to see more people talking about this blockchain. So the Solana train is going to come to a screeching halt. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. And I could see some of those profits and people looking for the next wave to ride. Obviously, I think PulseChain has more staying power than just what the influencer of the week has to say about it. But I do think we will see people hop into that when they realize, like, oh, here's like a brand new L1 that hasn't pumped yet. And hey, we've talked about it before. We know all these guys have bags. I'm sure Coin Bureau's got bags. People who would never utter the word Richard Hart or PulseChain out of their mouths on their stream because they're usually bought and paid for by another company already. So, so bullish times ahead either way. I mean, hey, we're finally here, guys, all year long. I literally remember our shows in January where you and I were arguing about whether the Bitcoin bottom was in yet or not. That was a mere 11 months ago. And now here we are, our final show. This would be the final show of the year, right? Yeah. Final show of the year. And And this was an accumulation year. I mean, we saw things get pretty damn nasty, not as nasty as 2022, but pretty nasty, and are starting to recover now. And 2024 should be a good year. So who knows how good? Keep your head on a swivel. But I mean, I know your sentiment, Ewok, is probably similar to mine. I'm still just right now, as long as we're in these depressed range, any red cent that I can just market buy into this ecosystem is what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah, it's definitely still accumulation. You know, I don't think we've gotten out of that zone yet for any of the tokens in the RH space. I think it's definitely accumulation time for all of them. And you know, you never know. Even, you know, I hate to tell people to buy incentive, but you know, it could run too, and there is no OA. There's very limited supply. You know, there's discussion of it eventually being some sort of DAO. You know, with the right to vote on tokens that we could have on the PulseX farms and what's there. So, you know, I think they're all very affordable. I think it's a good idea to accumulate what you can of each, and try and bump up your league stance as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Man, definitely a lot of bullish things happening. Really good to see RH, and I'm glad we were able to really dissect that stream. And a hell of a stream here tonight. We have a lot of you guys here. This has been one of our more popular streams in a little while. I imagine maybe because not so many people are streaming right now. It's the day after Christmas. We had Richard's stream, obviously, last night. So shout out to all you guys. Things are just feeling really bullish right now. I'm excited for 2024. We're actually ready to flip that calendar. We will have, I clipped up our crypto tax video from a couple of weeks ago. We'll have that coming out for you guys too. If you need any assistance with using Coinly or what we may do for crypto taxes, we'll get that out here soon, even though you won't have to worry about that for at least another 3 weeks or so, probably. But hey, shout out all you guys, DJ Moonboy, as always, Philly, Jeezy, Blue Diesel, Crypto Quiz. I know I'm missing others, but Pulse Believer, Alan earlier in the chat, lots of you guys, Marco here as well. So yeah, shout out. We will be back next week, same time, same channel. Next year, 2024, January the 2nd, we'll be fresh off the college football playoff. We'll know who's playing in the national title game. I'm going to say Washington, and boy, I feel like Bama's going to knock off Michigan. I hate to admit that. I don't want it to happen. I'm going to give me Bama and Washington in the national title game. What say you, Ewok, about that one?
Washington and Michigan.
Okay, that's Bama and Michigan. I'm more not sold on. I have no idea why Washington's an underdog to Texas. I don't think it makes any sense at all. Michael Penix is the man. I think Washington definitely wins that game. So shout out college football if any of you guys are pumped for those games. But yeah, we will be back next Tuesday, January the 2nd, right here. Boi Crypto, Crypto Ewok, right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. Take it easy, guys.